start out? Do you want to start out by telling everybody sort of the premise?
Sure.
Setting the stage.
So Legends is a show about a special group of FBI agents who handle covert investigations. A legend is an identity that is created by an undercover agent to help infiltrate, go undercover, but it's actually a fully, deeply imagined life. Martin Odum, who Sean plays, is really sort of the best of the best. And these guys, just as a division, are really sort of the tip of the spear in doing investigative work within the FBI. And the show itself, that's the arena. The show itself is basically, it's about a guy who can't tell his legends from his real life. And these questions of his identity are really the sort of driving mythology of the show. And I could go on. Oh yeah, so everybody's character. Okay, so I'll start with Sean. Sean plays Martin Odum, if that is his real name. Sean is an FBI agent who works Legends, who works undercover. He does deep cover infiltration, and in the pilot, somebody comes up to him and says, basically, Martin Odum is a legend. It's not who you really are. And this launches Martin on a deep quest to discover what may actually be happening in his life and who he really is. If there is some grand conspiracy afoot behind this, he's going to get to the bottom of it. And in the Division of Covert Operations, which is a special elite division in the FBI, his handler, or sort of the person who sort of runs the operations for Martin Odum, is Ali's character, Crystal McGuire, Special Agent Crystal McGuire, and there's a little bit of a history between them. There's some degree of tension between them in terms of tactics and methods, but together they make a formidable team. And they are supported and backed up by Tina, who plays Maggie. I think Maggie cool. Maggie in the script. Maggie is trained on every database you can imagine, NSA, DOD, FBI, all of that, and is instrumental in sort of creating the deep backstory of these legends, and which becomes absolutely instrumental in many times saving Martin's life. And then lastly, we have Special Agent Morse Chestnut. That's the character's name. Yeah. So what I wanted to call him, actually, is just coincidental. Special Agent Tony Rice, who is an agent who begins investigating a murder that he believes Sean's character may have committed. And we're not actually sure. Because when you do deep cover work and you're in these cases, oftentimes you're pushed into a situation, into a position where you actually have to cross some moral lines that you wouldn't otherwise do. But as an FBI agent like Agent Rice, he doesn't believe in the FBI that's acceptable, and so he picks up this. The beginning of this investigation against Martin, and discovers that there may in fact be more of a systemic corruption afoot in DCO, and along the way begins discovering this sort of large conspiracy that underlines what's happening. So, and eventually he may in fact join the DCO. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I really look forward to seeing it.
Hi guys, I expect that you guys didn't kick a lot of ass on the show. So were you guys able to take training in choreography from previous roles and apply it to this project, or was it all learning like a whole new skill set?
I've been doing a lot of actually kind of the in the field work, and I've had a lot of experience working with guns from like Resident Evil and Heroes and different projects that I've worked on, so I'm pretty comfortable with a lot. But it was really exciting to kind of get in there and be with these guys and try to really learn more how to kind of walk like butter, and make it very smooth, because it's easy to get tensed up. And one of the things that I learned from them, which has been really helpful to me, is just that everything's second nature. So you just have to be in your body and be really smooth and flow and focused. And so that's been really interesting. This week I went from wearing an Hervé Leger dress to a hazmat suit with a gas mask. So that's all in a week's work on Legends.
Hi everybody, I'm Mark from Magic Radio. My question is for the actors. What people, real or make believe, did you draw from to create the characters that you play on the TV show?
Joe, you want to say,
Who influenced your characters?
well, the show itself is based on a book by Robert Littell, who created at least a couple of the characters. And so that was really, I think, sort of where all this began. Obviously, it's changed a little bit from somewhat from the book, but I would say,
Yeah, I think it was, I read the book before, just before we started the pilot, reading each scenes, it's good to just dip in and out. Because the characters are very interesting, fascinating characters. And I guess that's a good basis to work from, the actual book itself, which is excellent. And, it certainly helped me in terms of between Martin Odum and Lincoln Dittman, the other character that I played, Dante Forby, which I played. And it was a good, rather than kind of just inventing the characters, at least I had the material that I could refer to try and create these characters, and that was very useful. It becomes a thing of its own after a while. I think we take that as a basis, we take that as the kind of the anchor for what we're trying to achieve, but we kind of tangents.
well, and the thing that's so cool about this show is that each of these deep cover identities, these aren't like new identity of the week or anything like that. These are actually pre-existing characters, pre-existing legends, if you will, that are out there. They exist. They have their own apartments, their own cars, their own wardrobe, their own contacts, their own friends, their all of that. And so as a case comes into the FBI and they turn to DCO to help investigate, Martin is an operative, an agent who can pick one of his pre-existing legends, not unlike a surgeon would pick an instrument. Like, what is the best way that he can sort of infiltrate? So there's a more organic and realistic way that he's able to infiltrate some of these groups. But I think the appeal is the fact that each of these legends is a character in their own right. They have to be deeply imagined.
There's total belief in the character, it's total belief that I believe that he is this man, and therefore that's why it's a very interesting drama, right? Because it's psychological, it's fascinating, because he becomes this person totally immerses himself in his character, has his own apartment, as you said, his own menu, his own preference to food, everything, totally believes in that character. And when those characters kind of collide, that becomes a problem psychologically for him, even though he doesn't want to admit it. He thinks he can carry on doing these characters and still become himself. It's like acting for his part. sooner or later that's going to come down, you know, and you're going to have some problems. And this God certainly has some problems.
Exactly.
And that kind of, you know, kind of filters through to all the other the departments in general. You know, I mean, these guys are this good. You know, this Martin Odum, he's a good guy. You know, he does some good things, but he's not. The people he's working for are not dissimilar to you know, other illegal organisations. You know, just happens that, you know, they pass through government and illegal.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's got a badge.
Other illegal organisations.
Are you playing him as him playing somebody else? Like it's, now you're doing two characters at the same time.
We're doing three characters,
Three.
but which is great. It's fantastic. It's fun. The actors, you know, dream to be able to do that. But sometimes it gets a bit confusing for me too. When I go home at night, so I get some sleep.
So you've played characters who are playing characters before. How do you approach then playing a character who's playing a character who may or may not be playing a character? Actually, you have to reverse that, but you get the idea. Especially when you don't know.
What was that? I'm playing a character.
So you are playing a character who's playing a character, but who may in fact be playing a character behind that and doesn't know. How do you approach that, and how much have you let him know about that third possibility?
Well, they don't let me know very much.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, he doesn't. You know, Martin doesn't know where you know, this where the bottom of this rabbit hole is, and in fact, you know, it's what makes him, I think, you know, for me, such an interesting hero is that. You know, his sort of greatest power, his greatest asset, is in fact the thing that lets him be this incredible operative. Is in fact the thing that is, you know, kind of jeopardizing his own psyche and frankly his own soul. You know, it's this question of you know, if he commits a crime in Legend. Does Martin Odum have to answer for that? You know, what does the soul look like of a guy who steps into all these different shoes and in these different identities, and he can't be responsible for what these other identities necessarily do.
Yeah, because he's not speaking to anything, but it's not really me that did it. It's somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
I have a question for Sean. I was wondering, like, why do you always die in everything you're in?
How many
I
rifles?
think I'm still alive in this one.
Yeah, we don't have any plans for Sean's character's death at this moment.
Yeah, I don't do it a lot.
Where is it set? What town, what city? Where is it?
It's based in, DCO is based in Los Angeles. You know, in the sort of federal bureaucracy here in LA. But as obviously as a federal agency, they go anywhere in the country. And beyond. Well, it's FBI, so it's predominantly domestic, but again, they'll go where the stories take them, and I won't say, but you know, it will not only be the United States.
I have a question. So I know that this is Legends is based on a book. Do you deviate somewhat from the book, or do you say straight from the book?
No, we deviate completely from the book.
But I mean, you know how sometimes there's characters might be taking a different path or different
It's
paths.
all different path. I mean, it's rooted in those characters and everything, but you know, the demands of storytelling in a novel, a really good novel, you know, like Legends, and then to do a TV show, the demands are totally different. So we approach story totally different, and as well, you know, we created this very cool cast and everything. So Yeah, we're not bound by the book, but it's a terrific book in and of itself.
We've got time for 2 more questions, so.
Tina, I have a question for you. What would you say the difference between Mac and Maggie are?
Oh, God, I knew that question was coming. I think with Mac is all computers. And I think that it started out as a hobby or a way to get revenge on people, to do right, you know, or wrong sometimes. I think with Maggie, what we know about her so far is that there's a conviction behind what she's doing. She's highly trained. It's not just something that developed out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It's not something that was based in a hobby. This is a life path for this character. And I think that she, at least what I like to think about this character, is that I think there's more of a patriotism behind it. That there's a real need to participate in a solution to things, if that makes sense. I know I'm being very elusive, but just that those are the differences to me. I like to look at them, even though I knew there would be comparison. Two totally different mindsets, two totally different people. I don't think there's as much of when I think about Mac, there's so much of a sarcasm and a sense of humor and a levity to her that we're still discovering who Maggie is at this point. I don't feel that it would go in that direction, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Morris, what can you tell us about Tony and the role he's going to play in this unfolding mystery?
I don't know actually what role he's going to play. Right now he's having a good time in pursuit of Martin Odum, trying to just really figure out the truth in regards to, you know, if he's really involved or associated with the murder, or is it really just some part of a larger cover-up within the DCO?